Here's a video that I've been planning to do since yesterday. It's only posted 2 days ago from when I recorded this, so it's practically brand new. If you are a fan of K-pop or K-drama, then please avert your eyes, because the following video detailing the exploitation of migrant worker in South Korea is not very pretty. So let's see.
입 닫아! 미친놈아. 아 진짜. 너 대신 일할 사람이 지금 와요. 방도 없어.
Senglub came from Cambodia to work in a poultry farm. When she was abruptly fired in October 2023, she secretly recorded this video.
아니요.
뭐가 아니고
사장님.
가라고 가. 야,
사장님.
내가 가라면 가는 거야. 가.
지금 아니.
So, in this country, this would be considered physical abuse, obviously. This woman, this Thai woman is working this place, and this guy is her boss, and he's physically putting his hands on her. So, in this country, this would be considered physical abuse.
짐 싸. 짐 싸라고! 가만히 있어.
Vulnerable to exploitation and abuse. Although her contract specifies 8 hours of work a day, Senglub
It says here on the labor contract that it's for agriculture, livestock, and fishery sectors, which is very broad, very broad. This is hard labor. I mean, just looking at this, it's 100% hard labor.
says she was forced to work an extra 2 hours without pay. Before she was fired, Senglub recorded videos as evidence of contract breaches by her employer.
ដើមគោអញ្ចឹងទៅយើងឲ្យវិចខ្ចប់សាច់គោទៀតហើយខ្ញុំនៅហ្នឹងពេលអត់មានការងារក៏ទៅសម្អាតផ្ទះអីឲ្យតកែហើយដែរហើយហត់មែនតើទ្រាំតែគ្រប់10ម៉ោងហ្នឹងគឺមកដល់ផ្ទះសឹងតែមកដល់ប្រាស់ខ្លួនដេកហ្មងហត់ខ្លាំង
I mean, okay, so this is slavery. This is straight up slavery, right? Indenture servitude. She's a migrant worker. She's working not only in the factories, the farms, the warehouse, the whatever. She's now brought to her employer's house and presumably is being a maid for free. Because remember, they said previously that she had her wage stolen. So wage theft, right? Her boss refuses to pay her. So, I mean, I would not expect her to getting paid doing a maid. So this is just straight up slavery. By the way, just because I'm curious, this looks like a gym. Doesn't it? This looks like a gym. For somebody who has a gym in their home, for her boss to have a gym, a personal gym inside his home, he is not without money. Let's be real clear there. He is not without money. So anyway, I just thought that was...
wages. And she says that payment was not the only problem.
បន្ទាប់ហ្នឹងគឺនៅប្រភេទបែបចំការបែបផ្ទះចំការទូចមួយវាអត់សូវកក់ក្ដៅប្រហែលដែរខែល្ងាវាល្ងាខែក្ដៅគឺក្ដៅខ្លាំងមែនទែនអត់មានម៉ាស៊ីនត្រជាក់ទេមានតែកង្ហារប្រើហើយខែក្ដៅមានតែដុតឡហើយនឹងដុតឡហ្នឹងគឺវាអត់សូវកក់ក្ដៅដែរវាភ័យដែរហ្នឹងហើយ Okay.
So she's saying that her living conditions were absolutely abominable. There was no AC, no heating, negative 10 degrees outside. My thing is, at some point, you kind of have to decide, if you're a migrant worker, at some point you really have to decide whether or not this is worth it, right? You go to a different country to live a better life, right? You go to one of these richer, quote unquote, richer country to get a better life, a better living standard, and also to make money to send home. Well, the money thing is not working out because she's getting stiff, so there's no money to send home, and the living condition is hell. So at some point, it's like, why do you want to continue staying? Because there's zero, at this point, there's zero incentive to stay.
In December 2020, another female Cambodian worker was found dead in a plastic greenhouse about 50 kilometres north of Seoul. Temperatures had dropped below.
Oh, my apologies. My apologies. They're Cambodian, not Thai. I'm sorry. They're Cambodians. All right.
Below minus 15 degrees, and with no heating, she died in her sleep. According to a Labour Ministry report released the following month, 70% of foreign workers in the farming and fishing industries were living in makeshift structures rather than proper housing.
ការខ្ញុំមកដំបូងគឺអត់ដែលរំពឹងថាខ្ញុំមកជួបបែបហ្នឹងទេជាពិសេសគឺផ្ដល់សិទ្ធិហើយការរស់នៅស្រួលសុវត្ថិភាពអញ្ចឹងបាន
Okay, here's a tidbit for you. It's in the advertisement. It's part of the advertising. It is. I have relatives actually that are living in other part of the country who have been solicited and advertised to become a migrant worker. And I will tell you that the pitch is good. The pitch is that the employer is in desperate need of labor. They are paying really well, and you live in dorms. You live in, and the word dorm, the word, company provided housing, it sounds a lot better, right, than just a shack in the middle of nowhere with no heating. It sounds better. It sounds comfortable. They make it sounds comfortable. They make it sound easy. And these women, and typically they are women, a lot of these migrant workers to Asian and Southeast Asian countries are typically women, and these women fall for it, hook, line, and sinker. Every time. The pitch is really good. The advertising is incredibly misleading. So you can't blame them for falling for it.
Victims of abuse have few options. Low-wage foreign workers are often tied to their employers through strict visa regulations. Despite government promises to improve their living conditions, most migrant workers are still excluded from the social safety net. At the southern tip of the Korean peninsula, the farming community of Migrant is disappearing. The town has lost half its residents since the 1960s. Jung Ho Bin says he has no choice but to hire Noi, a 33-year-old Cambodian woman who helps him cultivate chili peppers and eggplants. To hire foreigners, Chung has to follow strict government regulations.
Would one of them include not killing your worker?
Noi is his only full-time employee at the moment. She feels lucky to have found work with Chung.
ខ្ញុំធ្លាប់ឮតែខ្ញុំភ័យដែរប៉ុន្តែនៅពេលដែលខ្ញុំតាំងពីខ្ញុំមកធ្វើការមួយគាត់ចិត្ត2ឆ្នាំហើយខែ1ថ្ងៃទី18ខ្ញុំវិញ2ឆ្នាំហើយតែខ្ញុំមិនដែល
ជួបរឿងអញ្ចឹងឯងតែហើយខ្ញុំគិតថាខ្ញុំវាអត់ត្រូវជួបអញ្ចឹងណាព្រោះខ្ញុំធ្វើការមួយគាត់យូរហើយខ្ញុំមិនដែរជួបអញ្ចឹង
제가 원하는 나이대는 20대, 30대는 솔직히 아예 없다고 보면 되고요. 40대, 50대 정도는 돼야 되는데 과연 40대, 50대들이 농업에서 줄 수 있는 법적으로 보장돼 있는 최저시급 9,860원을 받고 이 단순 노동과 이 더위에 그리고 이 추위에 할 수 있는 분들은 지금 없다고 보고요. 그리고 만약에 설사 있다고 하더라도 외국인 친구들에 비해서 일하는 뭐 숙련도라든가 그런 부분에서 제가 생각하기에는 많이 뒤처진다고 뭐 체력이든 정신적인 문제든
I'm sorry. What? Personally, I think there will be a lot more behind in terms of stamina and mental strength. So this is his reasoning. This is the I guess this guy's reasoning for not hiring local Korean is because he thinks that they will, first of all, they cost more. You have to treat them like, you have to let them take breaks and stuff. And I'm guessing well, what I have a problem with is that this owner is kind of disparaging his own people, really. And you hear that very common tactics used all the time of especially farm employers, farmers, basically dissing their own people because they're unwilling to provide adequate pay and accommodation. It's like these farmers know that the work is hard. They themselves, they are very well aware. They know the work is hard. The conditions are grueling. You have to do repetitive, mind-numbing work day in, day out on any condition. Like, these farmers know that. But instead of improving on their system, and I'm not talking about just Korean here, I'm talking about farmers over the world. Instead of improving the efficiency of their farms and the way that they work, instead they continue to do the same grueling farm work from 50 years ago. And when the local population refuses to do it, they resort to buying slave labor elsewhere. And I'm not a farmer. I don't understand the complexity or the hardship or the adversity that a farmer faces. But you have to think that at some point, these farmers gotta wise up and realize this is not the world that their father or their grandfather is still farming from 50 years ago. And so I just find it very, very bizarre. I find it very, very strange that farmers, instead of reflecting on their farming practices to make it efficient, instead they choose to just cut costs altogether.
그래서 제가 생각하기에는 많이 뒤처진다고 뭐 체력이든 정신적인 문제든
With the world's lowest birth rate and a rapidly ageing population, South Korea is desperate for workers. A record high of 165,000 low-wage migrant workers were approved in the last year. But once in South Korea, they are 3 times.
I'm sorry. Okay, here's my problem with this. Okay, so the narrator is saying one of the problems is because of lower birth rate, which is a problem that a lot of developed world is facing. Okay, we got it. But here's the thing, right? If you have a child, would you want them to be a farmer? If you have children, would you want them to be a farm worker? Would you want them to work on a farm and do hard labor all their life? it's not an issue of having or not having more kids. Because if I have a lot of kids, I don't want, even if I have 10 kids, I don't want any of them to live a hard life, doing hard labor in the fields all day. Right? That's the whole point of education, is so you can get away from this hardship. So a lot of it is mindset. And you know, if we were to prescribe capitalism to it, then we would just have to say that there's not enough incentive, right? Incentivize people more. If you want people to take on arduous tasks, then you have to make it more fulfilling, give it more incentive. You can't expect me to just give birth to a bunch of children for you to fill out your factory line or your farm line. That's not going to happen. Okay, so once again, the whole point is that once again, it falls on the farmer and the big business owner to give people a better incentive.
More at risk of dying at work than the national average. Ryu Hyun Chul is the director of the Centre for Working Environment Health and an expert in workers' rights.
우리나라의 소규모 제조업들의 아주 나쁜 관행인데 인력 운용의 탄력성, 그러니까 생산량이 많으면 사람을 많이 쓰고 생산량이 적으면 적게 쓰고 싶은데 고용을 하게 되면 그런 탄력성이 떨어지잖아요. 일이 많다고 뭐 해고했다가 고용했다 할 수 없으니까 편법적으로 자신이 아리셀이라는 회사의 인원들은 되게 최소 규모로 하고 인력 파견이라는 형태로 인력 공급업체에다가 필요한 만큼 그날 인력들을 당일 몇 명 보내줘 이렇게 해서 고용을 했던 모양입니다. 이런 건 한국 사회에서 지금 불법입니다. 모두 이게 법적으로 용인되는 형태가 아니에요.
So this is the first time I've ever heard of the phrase elastic management. I have never heard that phrase. So essentially, a company doesn't want to hire too many people. They want to hire the amount of people that correlates with their demand. Except demand goes up and down. And when it goes down, you can't just fire the people you hired. And then when it goes up, you can't just rehire the people you just fired. So instead, this elastic management policy is to hire a minimum number of workers, and as demand increases, use third-party employment agency, is what I'm understanding. And supposedly this is illegal. Let's think about this for a second. Is this worse than the way that we do things here in the US? In the US right now, the way that things are is it's also kind of another version of elastic management, right? So company now would only hire part-time employees. They are slowing down on hiring full-time employees. And they want part-time employees more, so, you know, lower wages, no benefits. And also there's elasticity in that, where if the demand increase or decrease, they can increase labor or cut labor. There's also a lot of company that uses employment agency to kind of fill in the gap, but not hire those people fully. Personally speaking, I don't really see the difference between the two. Regardless, you know, employment here in the US is a separate issue, so we won't get into that today.
나이가 많은 고령 노동자, 뭐 다른 데 일자리 구하기 어려운 사람들. 그러다가 지금은 이제 이주 노동자들한테.
So here's another interesting point this guy just brought up. The jobs that are dangerous, that have terrible conditions and terrible paid, are usually reserved for those either too elderly to work anywhere else, or those who can't find employment. So the unemployed vagrants who can't find a job. Those two groups are now being replaced with migrant workers. There's the jobs that should go to them, the dangerous, awful jobs that should go to them now go to the migrant worker. That's this guy's argument. But what I don't get is, why is it better to give these jobs to the elderly and the people who can't find jobs? If you have a really, really dangerous jobs that are with really, really crappy pay and crappy conditions that are literally killing off migrant workers, why would it be better to give these jobs to the elderly or the unemployed? So instead of fixing the problem with these jobs and improving the efficiency, the quality of life, and the pay for workers, now instead of using migrant worker, we're just gonna pass that on to the elderly. Am I missing something here? Is that this guy's point? Is he's complaining that these awful jobs should be made to old people? Yeah, I don't think I agree with that.
그런 일들이 몰려가는 겁니다.
Ryu says the Korean companies have long been able to sidestep the law due to the government's leniency.
그러니까 되게 짧은 시간에 정부 주도로 쭉 되어 오고, 그리고 정부의 비호 아래 굉장히 성장해왔던 기업들이 성장의 주축이 이루어져 왔다는 거죠. 그런 문화들 자체가 안전보건들을 좀 뒷전에 물려놓고 기업들의 경제활동들 자체를 용인해줬다는 거고요.
Since the tragedy, local authorities have pledged to implement changes and enhance protections for foreign workers.
이번 사고를 계기로 산업 안전과 이주 노동자 문제 등에 대한 새로운 기준이 될 백서를 만들겠습니다. 아주 솔직하고
I'm guessing this is a speech of some sort, trying to make the speech to say that they're going to provide transparency and, standard for, migrant worker. The funny thing about this is that this message doesn't affect the actual migrant worker, right? Because the migrant workers are not the one having access to all these information. Government oversight is rampant everywhere. The government cannot regulate everything, every single business, though it tried. So while, you have a press release like this that says that, they're trying to prove transparency, the real people that need transparency are the migrant worker in their country, right? Because they're the one being solicited by these employment company promising them riches and glory and a high living standard should they go overseas and become migrant worker. So it is these employment agencies, these employment companies that are essentially hoodwinking and are lying and are falsely advertising to migrant worker in these other countries. So really, the South Korean government little press release here doesn't really do anything, in my opinion. It doesn't really, the people that this affects the most, the people that needs the most transparency are the migrant worker themselves. And they don't know enough Korean or English or any other language to get the resources or to get transparency. All they know is what is being advertised to them by I don't want to call them human trafficker, but they're close to being human trafficker.
갇힐 수가 있기 때문에, 연기 때문에 엘리베이터 사용하면 안 되고.
The Korea Fire Institute, a governmental organisation in charge of developing advanced firefighting technology, has launched a new workshop for its foreign employees.
이거를 여기가 이 상태에서 이쪽에 창문이 있는 거예요, 창문. 여기 사람이 여기서 여기 창문.
What is the point of this? If these foreign migrant workers don't understand Korean, and all the safety training is conducted in Korean, am I asking the obvious question here?
탈출해야 돼, 이렇게 걸고 끼워서 겨드랑이 사이에다가 끼워서 한번 쪼이고, 한번 쪼이고.
I look at this room, right? See, I look at this room and I see only like a few people. I'm guessing these are the few people that are really good in Korean or something. And they'll hopefully retranslate this information back to their compatriot. But the chances of that is slim. The chances of them getting everything is slim. And the chances of the information, you know, not making it to the rest of the migrant worker is very high. So I have reservation about training like this.
아무래도 외국인 노동자 같은 경우에는 한국어에 익숙하지 않고 뭐 글자도 한국 글자를 잘 모르시는 분이 많기 때문에 그런 설명서나 뭐 이런 걸 봐도 좀 익숙하지 않아서 어려움이 있을 거라고 저희가 예상을 했고요. 그 좀 뭐 낯설었던 그 한국의 그 기계 기구들이 좀 익숙해질 수 있도록 저희가 좀 도와드리고자 오늘 행사를 진행하게 됐습니다.
I'm still confused. This guy just admit that most of these people don't know Koreans or can't read Korean. So how exactly is he teaching them? No idea.
But the battle for equality and the rights of migrant workers is still far from over.
គ្រួសារខ្ញុំគឺខ្ញុំតាក់ទងមួយគាត់
So, I don't know if you remember, this was the woman that they said had better, like her employer treated her well, like better than the migrant worker. But they never show us, here's the interesting part, they never show us what her living condition is. The first lady talked about how her living condition was horrible and all that, but they never show us about this woman. So now I'm curious as to what is going on here.
អត់រងៃប៉ុន្តែពីការរស់នៅក្នុងជីវិតយើងរាល់ថ្ងៃយើងអាចហ៊ានប្រាប់គាត់ទេខ្លាចគាត់បារម្ភចាំបើមានបញ្ហាយើងគ្រាន់តែប្រាប់គាត់ថាអត់អីទេម៉ែខ្ញុំសុខសប្បាយហេតុផលដែលជំរុញឲ្យខ្ញុំទ្រាំនៅប្រទេសកូរ៉េទី1គឺដើម្បីជីវភាពគ្រួសារតែហ្មងបើខ្ញុំទៅផ្ទះវិញគឺមានន័យថាខ្ញុំបោះបង់គ្រួសារខ្លួនឯងចោល
Okay, so this is the end of this video. This doesn't really answer any question. In fact, if anything, it raises more questions than it answers. There's also the issue of employment agency and the employment company that come to solicit and recruit migrant in these third world countries. And I know this particular video, this particular documentary didn't talk about those. But those are like 70% of the reason why migrant worker do the things they do and try to get in the door legally or illegally. There's also the side of the employers that is incredibly problematic. And this is an argument that I will make later on if I ever cover a video about US employment, which is the idea that you have a job that is dangerous, that is hard, that pays change. Nobody wants to do it. It's not only is it hard labor, not only is it taxing on the body, the mind, the whatever, but it's also physically dangerous to where you can die. You have a job like that where nobody wants to do. So instead of fixing the problem, right, which is to improve the efficiency and the quality of these jobs and to improve the pay and to increase the incentive as per the rules of capitalism. Instead, employers are circumventing that by resorting to importing slave labor. And it creates kind of a feedback loop because the more they import, the more the higher demand is for slave labor. And the more, you know, if there's a high demand, somebody will provide. South Korea is just on a smaller scale compared to a country like the US. So you can imagine how absolute bonkers the whole situation is. Oh well.